Thank you so much, sir. A very good evening to one and all. I am Kaumudi Singh, Assistant Professor in Professional Communication, Department of Applied Science and Humanities. I welcome you all on the behalf of Faculty of Engineering and Technology, third chapter of our special lecture series under the Skill Development Program. And the topic for today's session will be role of psychological aspects in the development of interpersonal skills. Today, we are highly delighted to have with us Dr. Saroj Kumar, who is working as an assistant professor in the University of Bihar, Central University of South Bihar. Welcome, sir, to our platform. Sir has done MPhil and PhD from English and Foreign Languages University, Hyderabad. Sir's area of interest are Socio-linguistics, English language education, phonetics, and phonology. Sir's areas of experience is wide and the span is around 8 years. Sir, we are highly delighted and indebted to have you with us. Welcome to the board. And now I present the mic to you. The mic is all yours. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I'm really thankful to both of you, especially Dr. Savya, Sachi, and Dr. Kaumudi, ma'am, for inviting me for this lecture. And I feel really privileged to talk to the young minds of Engineering Department of Lucknow University. So, good morning, everyone, and particularly a very good evening, the young students from Lucknow University. So let me, before we go ahead, what I will be talking about and what are the limitations that I have set for myself and what are the outcome I would like to achieve from this lecture. So first of all, let me tell you that the two aspects today I'm going to deal with you is psychology at one hand, and the other hand is the interpersonal skills. But let me tell you, I am a teacher of English. So therefore, I don't have that much expertise in these two departments. These are two separate disciplines. But what I plan is I will try to give you how these two disciplines interact with each other and what we can learn from this interaction. So my overall goal would be to, number one, sensitize you towards what is the role of psychology, how this psychological aspect work in the interpersonal communication or interpersonal skills. So this is my ambition. Do not assume that I'm going to talk about too much theoretical things and you will be learning too much psychological details about it. But definitely, I will be talking about some important aspects that are necessary to learn as a students of technology or engineering students or as a human being. And the things I'm going to talk about, it not only going to help you in your professional life, but at the same time, it is also going to help you in our personal life. So let us begin with, first of all, the definition of interpersonal skills. What do we mean by interpersonal skills? So whenever we talk about skills, that means it is a certain set of behavior that we are supposed to inculcate in ourselves. So as the term says, it is to and performing people. So whenever we interact with any individual, we will have to keep in mind all these things we are going to mention here, particularly how the psychological aspect, how our perception, how our behavior, how our conscious and subconscious mind, these things somewhere incorporate to learn and then implement those things, particularly in our professional life. So let us look at, so what I will do, I will share the screen with you. so that you can also see. Ma'am, can I share from here?
Yes, sir. You can share. We'll ask the technical assistant to please allow you to share
Okay.
the screen.
Thank you so much. So I'm sharing the screen. So we would be looking at, first of all, what is the interpersonal skills? So one by one, let us look at, there is something. Okay. So hope you can see it now. Okay. So as you can see, this is just a sort of ability. And ability is something that we can, there are two aspects of it. We are all born with some instinct, some ability. At the same time, we also acquire or learn some ability and skills from here. So interpersonal skills are something that we are all predisposed with. At the same time, we also are supposed to train ourselves, acquire some skill, or if we already have a skill, we can already boost up. We can make it slightly better. So this is a sort of ability or in any individual. That it means it is not like communication skill. It covers a lot of area. It is an umbrella term. So you can see the first point that it is an ability for any individuals to live, stay, work together, or to build a relationship, to sustain relationship. And when I say you can take it both in your personal life, at the same time, you can implement these things in your personal life. So that is interpersonal skills. So how we stay together in a group, how we work together at our professional places, how we adjust ourselves, how we can lead a team, how we can, build up a sort of, how we can as a leader motivate the co-workers. So these are the things that comes under the interpersonal skills. Interpersonal skills also include how one speaks, how good we are at listening, how we can carry our body and ourselves whenever we talk, walk, and sit. At the same time, how we are able to lead, how we are able to provide motivation to others. So all these things include under interpersonal skills. Then these skills are also known as, there are some synonymous terms which are used interchangeably with interpersonal skills. But of course, interpersonal skills as a term is more broader and it covers, it's an umbrella terms. So there are some other skills that are used depending upon, sometimes discipline to discipline, sometimes also depends upon which term do you take, and sometimes it varies from author to author. So some other terms which are very similar to it are social intelligence. Now, social intelligence is how you are able to live in society and how you can, accommodate yourself, particularly in such a way so that you can achieve your target. You can be a better person, or you will have a better personality so that you can lead other, you can motivate other, you can work better or efficiently. So therefore, it is also known as social intelligence. At the same time, it is also known as people skills, that how you manage with people, how you deal with people, how we interact with people. So these are the two other names related to interpersonal skills. So interpersonal skills are nothing but, it is our personality. Overall, it is our personality. So we will be looking at what personality is then. I'm slightly going away from the from the interpersonal skill towards slightly moving towards the psychological aspect of it. So now I have taken personality. So what personality is? We all know, we say, no, that person possesses very good personality. I met the person, but I really liked his personality. Sometimes negative thing also happened, that I met the person, but somewhat I felt that the personality he or she has, I didn't like it sometime, or I don't understand. So this type of things happen. So what personality means? Personality means it refers to individual differences in characteristics, pattern of thinking, feeling, and behaving. So how people judge you, what type of personality you have on the basis of your thinking, at the same time, how you feel and how you behave. So together, all these combined makes us our complete personality. This definition is called the American Psychological Association. So what you see, personality is something that is not, we can learn in a day in or day out. Personality is, our overall personality is the sum total of all the experiences, knowledge, incidents, events we have faced throughout our life. For example, whatever you see me right now, this is not the, because let me digress here slightly. An individual has two aspects, two broader aspects. One is the biological aspect of any individual. That means what I am biologically. The other is the psychological aspect. Psychological aspect, when I say, it means that how our mindset, what we are as psychologically, has been created with from the very beginning, the day we born, we started experiencing the things. And all the things we learn, acquire, interact, that becomes our overall psyche. So that is our psychological aspect of. So there are two aspects of being. We exist because of two things. We exist, number one, because biologically we exist, talking about the existential philosophy of Paul Sartre, because first is existence. We exist, therefore we are. But the second aspect of it that we are known for is what we are psychologically. So there are two identities of almost each and every one of us. One, how we look like biologically, what we are biologically, like your gender. At the same time, what we are psychologically, how much you know, what type of personality you have, what are your identities, what type of your behavior you have. So all these things creates our psychological aspect of being. So if you combine together, so then it becomes a complete personality. I'm not saying personality does not include our biological side, of course, because how you look sometimes also matters a lot. But if you look at it, personality is generally our psychological aspect, what we are psychologically. Okay. Moving ahead, then generally how we are able to come to know that what type of personality you have. When we meet anyone, then you realize whether you like the personality, and sometimes you meet someone who really possesses a very great personality and you never forget that person. So that personality, how you are able to come to know that which type of personality the person has, it is because of the way the person behaves. Okay. So one of the aspect of personality, and particularly how we are able to judge the personality, how we are able to know the personality, is with the help of person behavior. Because what person thinks, how you are able to know what I am thinking, it will reach to you only when I behave in that manner. Okay. So behavior becomes one of the key aspects to understand. And what are the things on which the behavior is controlled by, then definitely it is on the basis of cognition. What controls our behavior? It is controlled by our mind. And our mind is nothing but whatever we have get through the process, psychological process of cognition. So let me here tell you slightly about what is cognition. Cognition is a process of acquiring knowledge, acquiring experiences, or learning anything. But it is slightly different. It has something more. Like, cognition does not mean only taking an information. Cognition means when you either experience something, when you learn something, you not only take the thing as it is. What you do, you take the things, you paraphrase it, you understand it, imbibe it, and on the basis of that learning experience, we try to generate something new. That means our brain is very creative and we create the things on the basis of cognition. So cognition is not simply like receiving the things, taking the things. Receiving, but at the same time, interpreting it and then implementing it. It may be implementation, maybe in a positive manner, sometimes it may be even negative manner. So cognition is nothing but process of acquiring, learning the things in a creative manner. Okay, so that is the this aspect is very important, because sometimes we feel that our behavior, or sometimes why I behave in such a manner, it is sometimes beyond our control. So we feel why that happened. It happened because sometimes we are unable to control our behavior, because that aspect of it is controlled by the unconscious part of our mind, which is not in our control. So therefore we will come back on this aspect of conscious, subconscious, or even unconscious a little later. But still here you will have to understand that behavior is actually generally controlled by our mind, and that comes through the cognitive process. Can some of you please unmute yourself and answer one of my questions? And this I would ask from students. So please feel free to answer. How many of you think? Of course, it's a redundant question. We all think. No? We think, that's why we exist. But if I ask you, how many of you think about how you think? I want an honest answer, please. Can some of you feel free to answer? Anyone? And this question is to a student.
Students,
do you really think about how you think?
Students, please raise your hands to answer. We'll unmute you and give the opportunity to answer. Sir, could you please repeat the question once again?
Yeah, the question was, we all think, this is the common thing, because without thinking we cannot stay. If you are normal human being, we all think. But can you think of, do you ever think about how you think? Do you think about your thinking process? This is my question. Do you think about your thinking process? क्या आप ये सोचते हैं कि आप कैसे सोचते हैं?
No. Yes, we have one student to answer.
Okay, please.
Please, Chiranjeev, unmute Rupam.
Hello.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I definitely think that whenever I'm alone, or
okay.
Whenever I'm alone, I usually overthink what I have done all through my days.
Mm-hmm.
I usually think over it.
Okay, that's great. That's great. See, if you think about how you think, that means you are about to become an intellectual. Sorry, I was joking. Anyway, but this is a nice way. So, what this thing, why I have been saying these things is, you will have to think about, first of all, how you think. You will have to think about how you know. You will have to think about how you learn the things. You will have to think about how you perceive the things. Because once you start thinking about, once you develop, this is technically called metacognition. So metacognition is a process. Actually, these are the part of developmental psychology. And if you want to go in detail, please read Jean Piaget, proposed by, initiated by Vygotsky, then by Piaget, etc. So if anyone is interested, go and read in detail about the developmental psychology, or it also very prevalent in educational philosophy, at the same time educational psychology. So what is meant by metacognition? Metacognition is, now you all are adult learner. In such a case, now you are in the position to think also about how you learn. So what is the process of learning? What is the process of your thinking? So this will help you not only to understand yourself, that means your psychological aspect of yourself. At the same time, you will be able to understand slightly better to other individual if you develop such type of metacognition. Okay. So metacognition is very important. Sometimes I have seen many people who suffer, not many, but of course,
So there's some technical glitch going on. So I request you to please fix it by exiting and rejoining the session.
I was discussing about the concept of metacognition. That means it is simply about knowing about how you know. Knowledge about, you will have to develop knowledge about knowledge. Okay, so this is something you will have to inculcate in yourself, that how you know, or once you know, the process of knowing the things, and whether the things you know is really correct or not. Because most of the time we have a sort of perception and we start reacting, we start speaking, we start behaving on the basis of perception, which is sometimes may not be correct. So therefore, you will have to inculcate a habit. You will have to learn that what type of process of thinking do you have, and to what extent we can, improve our thinking process, particularly how you can challenge you can channelize your thinking process in a positive direction. So it is up to us that how we shape our mind, how we use our energy in a positive manner to reconstruct the thoughts which are going in a negative direction into the positive ones. So this is what we will have to take care of, particularly in the aspect of metacognition. And once you develop the concept of metacognition in your mind, that means you are moving towards the high order thinking. So in order to be a good scientist, in order to be a good engineer, in order to be a good leader, what we need, we will have to develop a high order thinking. And this high order
sorry
thinking,
to interrupt you. Hello, sir. Sorry to interrupt you. You
yes,
need
please
to
go ahead.
share the screen once again for us.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yes, I hope it
Yes,
is
sir.
visible.
It's visible now. Yes, sir.
So what is the use of metacognition? Metacognition will help us, number one, to psychologically develop ourselves, and us to have some high order thinking. And high order thinking is something that makes a human being separate from the crowd. Once my student asked, I'm digressing slightly, but I think digression is for better cause. Once a student asked me, sir, what makes some of the great university, however, the student named the university, okay, there is no problem. It was talking about JNU, So the student asked me, what makes JNU great? My simple answer was, however, my answer may not be 100% correct. I said that means the student wanted to ask what extra the teacher of JNU they teach to their students. I said one thing, as per my knowledge, is they make their student think. This student was slightly surprised. He said, sir, we also think. But my answer was, of course, we all think. But how our thinking is, how much advanced our thinking is, that will leads towards success. That will leads towards, towards the front line. What we are, everyone thinks, but what we need high order thinking. It doesn't matter in which field you are. If you are in engineering, what you need high order thinking. And that high order thinking can lead you towards, in a better direction. You can think about better research. You can think about better innovation only if you have high order thinking. So please develop a sort of metacognition. Please do think, please try to monitor your thinking. Please try also to monitor thinkings of other. That will help you to have better interpersonal skills. Now, other psychological aspects of interpersonal, we to our brain. You know, biologically and psychologically, our brain is the least investigated area of our body. Even psychologically, you know, concept of like conscious, unconscious, or subconscious, you will feel that there is no clear-cut definition. Still, there is no consensus. There is no agreement that this is the definition of consciousness. Okay, that means psychology is still a very developing sort of discipline, because our brain is a very complex thing, and it is the least investigated area of the entire human body. So once we at least have the basic idea about how our brain works and what are its layers and how it works, then you will be able to, you know, slightly handle the situation both in your personal life, in your professional life, in a better manner. So let us look at the layers of mind. However, generally there are two layers of our mind. So for that, I will show you a picture, and it will help us to understand this concept in a slightly better manner. So let us look at this picture. I hope you can see it now. So what you can see, suppose what you see, there is an iceberg, you know, and suppose that iceberg is our entire brain. So once you put that iceberg into water, then majority parts of that iceberg will be under the water, and a small fraction of it, roughly 10% of it, would be outside it. Definitely, it will float. So if you look at it, these three layers, so what is at the surface of it? Conscious mind. So this is just the 10% of what we know, what we have learned, what all the experiences that we have. So that aspect is called conscious mind. So what is the conscious mind? We all know difference between conscious and unconscious. Once we become unconscious, that means we are unable to recollect. Once you sleep, you do not know what is happening with you. Once you become unconscious, you don't remember what happened to you. But once you are conscious, you know what is happening all around. So conscious mind is nothing but that you can think about, that you can introspect, or you can reflect over. But there are other part of our mind that we have inside it, but we are unable to use it, and its consequences may be felt. For example, when you sleep, we sometimes go into dream, and we don't have control over the dreams. And sometimes we see some dreams that we can never imagine, we cannot think in our conscious mind. Then we are highly surprised sometimes that how we can dream in such a manner. Sometimes you may dream that you are planning to kill someone, or you dream something that you cannot accept, you cannot think about it. Now the question is, why such type of dream came to you? The answer is because such things are there in our unconscious mind, the mind which is not reachable to the conscious conscious part of it. We are not aware of it. So conscious means the knowledge, experiences, observations that we have and we know it. That means, for example, right now, whatever I am sharing with you, this is the part of my conscious mind. Whatever I know, what I can gather from is the conscious mind. But there are many things I might be doing while this lecture, and I am not completely aware of that this is the things I do, but I do. You may notice it. So there is a possibility that part of my behavior is not controlled by my conscious mind. It is actually controlled by my unconscious mind. So there are many things sometimes which are controlled by it. So let me again, once again tell you what is the difference between conscious. So conscious mind is nothing but that you are aware of. Conscious mind is nothing but that you can think about. Conscious mind is nothing but that you can share about. But unconscious is something that you are not aware of. But that is there in the deep recess of your mind, something inside your mind. So if you look at this picture, you can see that the lower part is, that is deep under the water, is our unconscious mind. That means that is not accessible. But conscious mind is something which is just 10% of it is accessible. But there is some intermediary position which is called pre-conscious mind. Then what is this? This is just an intermediary position. For example, if I ask you, tell me your mobile number. Okay, what is your contact number? Suddenly you started thinking about what is your, now that suddenly came into you. Or there, everyone, we all have some different type of bad or good experiences. But after the passage of time, we forget it, or if not forget, then it went either in the unconscious mind or pre-conscious mind. So all those retrievable knowledge or that you can get back is called pre-conscious mind. So pre-conscious mind is the store of knowledge particularly. It is also known as subconscious. It is particularly the storehouse of knowledge. A storehouse of anything that you have learned, experienced, observed is the pre or subconscious mind. But the quality is, or difference between unconscious or pre-conscious is, you can get the things from pre-conscious to the conscious mind. But whatever in the unconscious may not be retrieved, may not be taken back and used in the conscious mind. Now, in detail, we will look at it. What is unconscious and how it plays an important role in our behavior. This concept, the concept of unconscious, was first time used by a German philosopher. I don't remember the name exactly. Anyway, you can find it out somewhere on the internet. A German philosopher, but in English it was first time used by an essayist and poet, S.T. Coleridge. And thereon, but that was only the use of term. But this term unconscious became very vital when one of the renowned psychologists, Sigmund Freud, worked on it. It is he who popularized this term in a great detail. And it is he who gave a theory of psychoanalysis. So what is this unconscious? As per Sigmund Freud, our unconscious is, if you look at it, our unconscious is nothing but particularly the bad experiences we have are actually repressed, and that becomes part of our unconscious. So I will not go into the definition. I think example will be better to go for, to explain this term. You might have seen the orphans, the left children, particularly you might have seen many movies about it. Those who are orphan, they do not receive the sons because they are deprived of such love and affection. At the same time, they are also deprived because they are orphan, there is no one to take care of. So such, I'm not saying all, but many of them later on, they develop a sort of, antisocial behavior. So why this type of things happen in the later phase of life? Because our mind, like our body, also needs some feeding. They need some food. In the same way, our brain also needs love and affection. And if our positive, we do not get love and affection, so that desire would be, through the passage of time, will be repressed, and those suppressed desires, positive emotions, will transform into the negative one. So what will happen? There is a possibility those repressed emotion will turn into negative, and that's why sometimes they become antisocial. how can people kill other people? Because somewhere they lack emotion. They don't have that type of emotion. Somewhere their positive emotions are suppressed, and those are now coming into the negative one. So that is unconscious. For example, let me give you another example of unconscious mind. There is always a clash between the biological rule and the social rule. We all are, for example, biologically programmed to, particularly once you become adult, we are biologically programmed to attack towards the other gender. But here comes a social rule. Till now, what I said, every individual will be attracted towards the opposite sex. This is the biological rule. But suddenly comes a social rule. Social rule says, no, you cannot, because there are some relationship. You cannot be attracted towards your near relatives because they are your close relatives. So this type of things is a clash between the biological rules and the social rules, also sometimes turns into the suppressed desires. And I cannot go in that much detail. Please do read about the unconscious mind, particularly about some of the concepts given by Sigmund Freud. Now, if you may ask for how this is going to work in our interpersonal skill. See, once you are aware of these psychological aspects, definitely you will be able to handle the situation. You will be able to talk in a better manner. You will be able to interact with people in a better manner. So once you understand these aspects, you will develop a sort of empathy. You will be able to understand other in a better manner. You will not be suddenly judgmental and pass judgment that, see, that person is that sort, without understanding the deeper psychology of someone. So now we will look at what we are is because of this unconscious. So Freud says, and particularly when Freud gave this concept, then in psychology it turned completely different direction. Before Sigmund Freud, psychology was completely focused on, or primarily focused on, the conscious mind, that which is only 10%. If you ask me, sir, what is the percentage? A study says unconscious mind is just the 10% of our storehouse. And most of them are pre-conscious or subconscious, which is roughly 50 to 60%, and unconscious is 30 to 40% of mind. So psychology before Sigmund Freud was focused on only the unconscious mind. But later on, because of Sigmund Freud, it shifted towards psychology, for changing its direction from conscious to unconscious. And still you see majority of particularly experimental psychology is focused on unconscious. So many a time we don't have answer that I should not have behaved in that manner. Why I should behave in that manner? So that answer is somewhere lies in your unconscious. You will have to know your unconscious. So now how this unconscious is created, that is the important thing. That is the key aspect. So there are two aspects of it. There are individual unconscious and collective unconscious. Freud actually worked on individual unconscious. Individual unconscious means, say, how individual mind is created, nurtured, socialized. For example, why some of us becomes very social, very friendly, or most of us are abide by the rules and regulation, be it social rule or be it constitutional rules. But why there are some people, they feel pleasure in violating the rules, breaching the code of conduct? Why? The reason is this: because somewhere in their process of nurturing, somewhere they are convinced that if you do things, there is no harm. So therefore, it is actually the process of nurturing or socialization that creates your unconscious. So how you behave it today completely depends upon how your past experiences were. For example, if you have received too much, scolding in childhood, and if the other who has received slightly, there is no scolding at all, then there will be some slight difference in the behavior. These are not my opinion. These are the finding of psychology. It means every incident, everything that happens to us, you cannot forget the things. It only went to our subconscious. If something bad has happened in the past, it will be with you. However, you may not remember it, but that will be somewhere in the unconscious of your mind. So that is the individual part of it. That means the psyche of an individual varies. That means it varies from individual to individual. So that is one aspect. Now, in order to be a good person at interpersonal skills, you will have to be clever enough, you will have to astute enough to understand the group psychology, or as per the term given by Carl Jung, another very disciple of Sigmund Freud and very important person in psychoanalysis, is Carl Jung. Carl Jung says there is a collective unconscious. So what is this collective unconscious? That means you can understand it that every individual is different from one another. At the same time, there are some group unconscious. That means if you belong to a certain socio-culture, you may be nurtured in that manner. Therefore, your behavior would be of that type. Example, behavior of individual because of their socio-cultural differences may be different in Shillong, or may be completely different in Kanyakumari, or it may be different of Saudi Arabia, or it may be different in the United States. So there are many things that are known as collective unconscious. That means there are many common things, there are many common symbols that we understand. So these are the different layers of our mind. So now how we can relate it to the interpersonal skills? Whenever you communicate, whenever you want to take an action, please do implement all these things in your interpersonal behavior, and definitely it will help you. I will finish it. Then two more important points. One is perception and the other is attitude. So what is perception? Perception is nothing. The moment you either learn something, observe something, experience something, then what you do, you paraphrase it. You get meaning out of it. And then that meaning becomes part of your psyche. So that is called perception. And many times it has been noticed that people start talking, start taking action, not on the basis of fact, but on the basis of perception. And perception is something, it may be misleading. Many times it has been observed that perception are misleading. So do not believe on perception. And it is sometimes perception that becomes a sort of hindrance in our success, in our job. We are unable to cope with others. We are unable to fit in the group. Why? Because we have a certain type of perception. Let me share some experience that I have observed from 7 or 8 years of working in the universities. What happens particularly, once you start doing a job, once you get the job, you are very happy. But after sometimes, I have observed many employees, they started, sometimes building a negative perception about the particular organization in which he and she is working. And in most of their communication, in most of their interaction, it is clearly visible. The person has a negative perception. The person has, negative mindset about the institution or even about individuals. So therefore, I request all of you that please control your perception, check your perception, analyze your perception, whether your perception is correct or not. And for this, first thing you will have to develop is you will have to remove some of the biases that we all have, because that biases is because of our identity. We have many social identities. We have our caste, we have our religion, we have our ethnicity, we have our gender. These things somewhere comes both in building our perception at the same time attitude. Our perception and attitude. These things depend on those things. So you may have a question, then how to become a better professional? There's no panacea, but if you ask me only one thing, then I would say, you always think yourself just as a universal human being, like Rabindranath Tagore. Do not limit yourself in national boundaries. Do not limit yourself in caste boundaries. Do not limit yourself in your religious boundary. These are the things somewhere that holds you to look at the things in a completely objective manner. My suggestion would be, you be objective, you be scientific, you be logical. And these things are possible only when, if you behave, if you feel yourself just as a universal human being. You will have to put all the biases and prejudices you have on hold. Only then you can able to create positive attitude and better perception. I will conclude it. I know I am running.
Thank you so much, sir.
Just give me 4 or 5 minutes.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Yes. So another thing is, on the basis of that personality, you can develop your identity. You know, we all are running after to have our identity. And of course, no one wants to have bad identity. Unless and until, you know, there are, of course, like some people who wants to, be notorious. They love to be notorious. There may be. But most of us want to have positive identity of ours in other people's mind. But how that can be achieved? So it can be achieved with the help of interaction. But what type of interaction? You will have to interact in a, see, the only way, if I conclude it, the only way how one should behave, you should behave in the same way as you want others to behave with you. If you accept that everyone should be polite with you, then you are also supposed to be polite. That is the, one thing that you will have to remember always, that everyone wants that everyone should be polite with you. In the same way, you will have to be polite. You will have to be cooperative. You will have to be empathetic. So you develop your interpersonal identity by interaction, collective identity. Like this is, Indian problem. Like we do not have, I'm comparing to particularly the Western nation. They work in collaboration slightly better than us. Because you can see many works, particularly books, you can see written in a joint venture. But you can see less number of people working together in Indian condition. So somewhat we lack cooperation. We lack the ability to work together. There should be a collective identity. There should be some social support. What we need, as a psychologically, I told you that we need psychologically feeding, and particularly positive feelings, motivation, positive impetus. That will come from interaction, that will come from collective support, memory, and of course, peers who work with you or who study with you. What are that identity? Your cognitions, when you learn,
Excuse me, sir. Your voice is not clear to us. Hello?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Your voice is not clear to us. I request you to please. Yes, sir. Better. Thank you, sir.
It's better now.
Yes, sir. It's better.
Improve identity by cognitive, through cognitive influences. You learn better things. You can be in touch with scholastic influences. You can learn. You can be in. You can listen to good lectures. You can listen to intellectuals. You can listen to think tanks. Like TED Talks, etc. Then you can learn those influences. Particularly develop to respect other culture, to respect the differences, to respect the dissents. those who do not think in the way you think. So that is the things we will have to develop. At the same time, of the particular the best of our is critical, particularly when you are young. Okay, so now conclude by how to view your interpersonal skills. So I have some points to share, then I will conclude. Learn we have to draw. Most of us try to have that what miss. So focus negative on the point, and we have to praise other. If someone
have we lost him?
Yes, sir. There's some technical problem going on. We'll wait for 1-2 minutes. Sir will be back.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I'm sharing the feedback form with all the students and I request you to please fill it as soon as possible, because once the meeting is over, you won't be able to access that feedback form again. Yes, we have Dr. Saroj sir again with us.
sorry, time and again there is a
No problem, sir. You are visible and clearly audible to us.
okay. I'm sharing once again the screen. Okay, so learn to praise other. This is something that particularly we are human beings. Once anyone praises us, it somewhere motivates us. It gives us positive energy. It gives us impotence to work more. Okay, it gives us impotence to improve. So there are two ways. You can discourage or you can praise. So please learn to praise, even if you feel that the person is lacking in some aspect. We will have to learn that how to improve that person. So that in that way you can learn to praise, you can learn to have a better and constructive criticism. This will help you. Then practice empathy. You will have to understand others' feeling. Empathy means to be at the place of the person and then understand the type of feeling he and she has. It will help us to understand others. So follow the path of empathy. Being empathetic is always a good. That means sharing others' emotion and feeling. Empathy, for example, when you watch a film, if anything wrong happens to the hero or heroine, you start crying sometimes. No, you feel heavy-hearted. Why? Because you start empathizing with that character. So this is something, the quality that we will have to develop. Try to learn how to control your emotion. This is very important things. Try to control your emotion. You will have to balance your emotion. You are not supposed to be too much emotional. At the same time, you are supposed to be, you should have sentiment, but there no need to be sentimental. Okay, so control your emotion. You should have emotion, but in a controlled manner. Balanced emotion should be required. Be optimistic. Be objective in assessing others. Do not be biased in assessing others. Always be objective. And best thing is be a good listener. So I would conclude by saying that please practice all the things. At least try to practice some things that you have learned today. And you will see slightly there is a change in the way you look at the things. So the best way is to change your perspective. Now change your perspective to start thinking critically. We all think, but what we need, we will have to think critically. And above all, the one solution to every problem is try to be a good human being, and that will solve all the problem. So thank you very much from my side, and thank you for your cooperation.
Thank you so much, sir.
Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. Psychological factors consequently influence our behavior while interacting with others, which is referred to as interpersonal skills, as per discussed by Dr. Saroj, sir. A person with effective interpersonal skills are capable of appropriately communicating or resolving conflicts by a number of traits like appreciative attitude, assertive nature, empathizing, or actively listening. All the skills were covered by our guest speaker's lecture today, be it the concept of metacognition, the concept of knowing what you already know, which we actually practice in our sessions of human values and ethics, sir, or the
Yes.
concept of existentialism or Freud's
Yes.
concept of conscious and unconscious mind. It was really thoughtful of you to share these concepts and theories and actually sync those theories with today's topic, which was role of psychological aspects in the development of interpersonal skills. Thank you so much, sir, for such an enlightening and enriching session. We are very happy to have you with us today. Now I request Dr. Sachi, sir, to please say a few words.
It was really a nice and great session. Uh, and these sessions, although they do not need any kind of uh, wrap up, because these are still development
Open
sessions.
thing.
Yeah. However, as mandated and as a regulatory process, I have to extend a word of thanks. So I'm privileged to extend a word of thanks to this session engaged by Dr. Saroj Kumar. His interpretation of interaction between psychology and interpersonal skills was very enriching. The session addresses the issues related to our thought process. Only when we are in control of our thoughts and thought process, we can always counter the unexpected circumstances. Like
True.
during job interviews, uh, even after preparing all the frequently asked questions, you will always face a few unprepared questions. Those you might not have thought anytime. Their control over your thoughts and thought process will enable you reply them effectively. And then there is interpersonal skill that allows you to have a kind of hold over the situation. All these are supported by experiences and encounters that you have had in your lives over a period of time. He also talked about perception and attitude and how to develop upon them. It was a great session, and I really hope that Dr. Saroj will associate with us in future. I'm looking forward to that.
Of course, sir.
I, I thank Dr. Kumar on behalf
I'm
of
always at your
Applied
command,
Sciences.
sir.
Yes. I thank Dr. Kumar on behalf of Applied Sciences and Humanities, Professional Communication Department, Faculty of Engineering and Technology, University of Lucknow, for being with us and enlightening the whole session. Thank you so much, Dr. Saroj. Over to you, Dr. Kaumudi.
Yeah, sir, actually, I am expecting some questions.
Yes.
The reason is, see, because what I found, I skipped many things because in order to the time constraint, you asked me only 35 minutes.
Yes.
So many concept I discussed need to be discussed in too much detail. Only then the concept will be clear, particularly those who are listening to these concepts first time. So this is the limitation I faced. It was very difficult or challenging for me to talk about all the aspect in such a short span of time. So that was really challenging, but still, so I expect some questions from the students.
Of course,
if they
of course
have
we
it.
will have questions. Of course, we will have questions, and I'm also expecting questions on language learning and related issues uh, related to that
Psychology and
job
interpersonal
interview
skills.
kind of
Yes.
situations, right? Because there students will have to face in recent future, they will face them, right? So I also expect certain questions from them, right? Over to Dr. Kaumudi for further process.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I want all the students to actively participate in the question answer session. And students who are willing to ask a question will raise their hands and we will unmute them and they can ask the question from our guest speaker. Please raise your questions. This is truly a wonderful opportunity for all the students to know your or to know the answers of your queries. Okay, we have one question from our student Anand Tiwari. Please unmute him. Chiranjeev. And we have another question from Shrishti Srivastava. Chiranjeev, please unmute Anand first and then we'll take up Shrishti's question. Meanwhile, I want to announce that the feedback form is there in the chat box. Okay, we have lost the connection with Anand Tiwari. Please unmute Shrishti Srivastava Chiranjeev for the question. You can actually type your answer in the chat box also if you find any sort of technical glitch while unmuting and answering or asking question. Others can also raise their hands and we'll take up the questions one by one. We have one more question from Krishnam Rastogi. I request Chiranjeev to please unmute Krishnam first, as we have lost connection with other two students. Yes, Krishnam, please ask your question.
I would read the question for Dr. Saroj.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Anubha Pathak has asked a question. How do these interpersonal skills help us in excelling in career?
See, sub, it's actually the very generic question. See, there are two aspects of us. One is the subject knowledge you have. There are two aspects of any professional. One is the expertise you have about subject. That is one aspect of it. But the other aspect is how you adjust yourself in the working condition of the particular organization. Number one, how you adjust yourself with your peers, how you adjust yourself with the people who are junior to you or who are senior to you. So all these things they come into the interpersonal skills, that you work with the technical things, but after all you will have to work with people. At the same time you will have to work for people. So that is there, this interpersonal skills comes into the role. Without, technical aspect is just what you know, but what you know that will have to implement somewhere. For example, atomic reaction, we all know it about it. So it can be used in two ways. It can be used for atomic reaction, it can be used for defense, but it can also be used to kill others. Okay, so that is the technical aspect. But how you are going to use it, there comes the role of humanities. There comes the role of your empathy. There comes the role of society. There comes the role of how you understand other, whether you have collective thinking or not. So these are I think, more important than your technical knowledge. So that is my broad answer.
That's very right. The next question we have got from Harshvardhan Tripathi. He's from electrical engineering. The question is, how can our subconscious affect the way we think, feel, and behave?
Okay. Subconscious actually unconscious is the major part that affects our behavior much, not conscious, because conscious thing but unconscious is something that you don't know, and that unconscious, it controls your behavior. Like whether you will have positive attitude towards something or negative attitude towards something, that primarily depends on your unconscious mind. And unconscious is something, those are the repressed negative feelings in your mind that you are not aware of. Many a time it happens that you behave in a manner that you yourself do not accept it. So if you know that the behavior was wrong, then why you behave? Because you consciously know that behavior was wrong, but still you behave. Why? Because your unconscious was controlling you, not your conscious. So it happens that particularly this thing happens whenever you are emotionally overpowered. Whenever you are emotionally, then your unconscious becomes dominant. Particularly if you are overjoyed, if you are too much angry, in these conditions you will see your unconscious or subconscious started working over you. And the moment it overpowers you, your behavior will not be in your control. And that is why I will say that it is always up to us that how we control our subconscious mind with the help of our intellect. That's why we learn. We learn because to what extent we can exploit the subconscious for the positive thinking. The only difference, we all have anger, we all have the 7 deadly sins. But what we do, the more intellectual you are, the better you will be able to control those negative things. Okay, so this is my answer.
Thank you, Dr. Saroj. Anubha Pathak, who was the first, we took up the question. She says, thank you, sir. And Harshvardhan also says, thank you, sir. The next question that I will take up is from Aditi Biswal, electrical engineering second year. We praise others, but yes, not all the times we get appreciated for our work. Rather, knowingly we are demoralized. And how to praise others then in that condition?
See, the moment I listen to the question, you can see a smile on my face. Because I have more experience. I have more experience as a learner than as a teacher. So, and I also have experience in working in engineering colleges. No doubt. First of all, I take the responsibility as being a representative of teachers community, that teacher community at large, they have failed to praise the students. They have failed to motivate the students. See, you would be surprised to know that, and there are some of my students are still with me right now, and they are live. They can give you better that I never scolded any student so far in my life. I never said my student that I never demotivated them, whatever they have done. And this is something that not you, your elders, your teachers, your parents, they all have to learn that a scolding, demeaning, insulting are no ways to improve others. It will only lead towards, creation of some negative subconscious. So please, I request, I'm not saying you go and ask your teacher to praise you, that will not be done, but things are developing, and hope that in future, once you become teacher, once you become like us, then you will be treating in a more empathetic manner. So as a teacher, my answer definitely would be, first of all, I take this responsibility that of course this problem really somewhere is in some of the teachers, not all. Most of the teachers are definitely they are sympathetic towards the students, but one exception, take it in another way. See, most of the times your teacher scolds, so do not take it in that way. Actually that is the love comes in the under mask. A scolding of teacher does not mean they don't love you. They scold you because they have a sort of feeling that if they do not scold you, it will not work. So actually sometimes they do. Even sometimes what you feel is a wrong thing, actually they are doing for your benefit. So that is also one aspect of it. So please do not look at in that way. But of course, I totally agree that there are some teachers who demotivates students, which is not at all good. Even if someone has done really, not a good work, but still we do not have right to demotivate, insult others. It will never work. Yes.
The second part of the same question is how in this circumstance, how do we learn to praise others?
See, first of all, I do not mean that even if someone does a really wrong thing, you praise. But if you praise someone, see, suppose you are working as a boss in a company, you are the team leader, or there is a huge project under you, and you have a certain set of employees. There are 20 or 50 people are working under you. And definitely when they will work, there will be some problem. They will do something that may not be desirable, or they may not be as per the need of yours. In such a case, there are two ways. Either you can scold, reprimand, or the one way you can ask them to come sit, and you can very in a polite manner, you can say, this is not the proper way of doing. So that is also a way. So, and the other thing is, if someone really does something great, please do praise. Because the moment you praise, the person will be boosted with a lot of courage, enthusiasm, and the person will work with extra effort. And you will see that these things are, companies spend a lot of money in training. Why? Because they know that in order to get maximum output of the employees, what they need, they are supposed to be psychologically very strong. They should have positive, reinforcement to work. So therefore, not I'm telling only in the professional life, even learn to praise in your personal life. Please do praise if someone does anything good. There is no harm in it. Nothing is going to be, there is no harm at all. It will only gives you a good thing. Praise is a sort of medicine that does not have any side effect, mind you.
Very true. Aditi says, thank you, sir. The next question that I would take is from Shrishti Srivastav. The question is, how can we differentiate between our conscious thinking and cultural influences?
First of all, this question is a little bit framed in a different manner. Because see, culture and conscious, culture is part of the society, our practice, our tradition, our behavior, our ritual, etc. And on the basis of which our conscious or our mind actually mindset is created, our attitude is created. So there is no need to try to learn differentiate, but it is culture which definitely shape our mind. It is culture which definitely create what we are psychologically. Okay, so try to understand that culture is just a sort of feeding to our mind. What you learn as a ritual, tradition, food, habits, etiquette, all these things are the cultural norms. And these things you acquire and then you implement in society. You interact, then your cultural, part of your upbringing is reflected in your behavior. Okay, in language, in accent, in everything that will be part of you. Okay.
Vaibhav Kumar Dwivedi from MCA. He asks, why do we dream?
If this is the question, there is no concrete answer yet. Psychology is still thinking about to find a concrete scientific evidence about why do we dream. Because I told you very beginning, because this is still open debate. And why we dream? Because of course we are mentally prepared. The moment you sleep, then the reason is, there is a proper reason why we dream. Whenever you sleep, only your conscious mind sleeps. Our minds never sleeps, my dear. Only 10% of your mind sleeps when you sleep. Your 90% mind works always. It never sleeps. And that's why what happens when you dream, when that thinking somewhere interferes, there's an interaction between conscious or unconscious. So what happens, actually you are sleeping, but that whatever going on in your unconscious minds sometimes overlaps into your conscious minds, and that's why you able to remember it. That is the dream. Dream is nothing but there is an overlapping between the unconscious and the conscious. So we are, one answer would be, we are biologically programmed in such a way, that's why we dream. And not only we dream, even animals, they dream.
As far as I know, Vaibhav, actually he wants to, his inference is, why do we plan for future? I mean, that dream, I want to become a software engineer. Why do I want to become a software engineer? And that planning behind it, why do we plan behind it? So I think that is the inference. Vaibhav,
okay, then see, I think I will have to give a philosophical answer. So the philosophical answer is, there is a quotation by Paul Sartre which says, existence precedes essence. We live, therefore there is a meaning of our life. There's also another approach of philosophy which says, there is a meaning in our life, that's why we live. And both the aspect of philosophy is correct. So if I give you very philosophical answer, then we all have to set the dream, because we have to pass the time till we die. One. The second reason is, this was a very philosophical answer, because we all have dream, we all want to work, earn money, doing certain things, because we want to enjoy. Okay, so philosophical answer is, we have to pass the time. We are here on the earth, so therefore we have to set the goal. That is the philosophical answer. Now coming on the practical aspect. Practical aspect is, see, we have two types of needs and wants. We need food, shelter, and clothes. That is our primary needs. But at the same time, we also have some wants. We need good homes, we need good lifestyle, etc. So in order to fulfill all these things, you will have to professionally develop yourself. That is one aspect. The other aspect is, we all are part of this society. Try to understand, this is very important point, and these are the points which are not emphasized, particularly in technical education and professional education. We are part of society, and society has given too many things to us. You just look around and you will see that society has contributed so many things so far that we have enjoyed and we have been enjoying. Now it comes to us, it is also our duty as a part of the society to do something better, to give something better, so that to make society a better place to live. And therefore, in which, it doesn't matter in which discipline you are, you do something as a social contribution. If you are an electrical engineer, you do something, what you can contribute better in the field of that electronic engineering, so that the society will be benefited. So that is the social aspect of it. So there are several aspects of it that you can think, and then you can work. So philosophical answer is, I hope you get it, we have to pass the time. Technical answer is, we have to live. And third answer is, we are part of society, therefore we have some social responsibility and we are supposed to do it. We are indebted, so pay it back. Okay.
Well, Garima Singh has asked how to improve interpersonal skills. I think we have already addressed it. You have in your last part of lecture, and then first question, you have already addressed to this question. So we will move to the next set of question, that is by Rashi Singh. How we increase our thinking ability and expand our thought before being unconscious? Means before those thoughts become unconscious, how do we process them so that that unconscious remains with us in such a way that we can benefit, we are benefited with them?
Okay, that's a very nice question that I was expecting. Very nice. And please listen to it very carefully. See, there is one difference between the success and not successful people. We all know as a student that we should study, but we don't do it. So where the problem lies? Problem lies is in the execution. So we know that we should study. We know that we should study daily for 8 hours, 9 hours, or 10 hours, whatever. But the difference is between the knowing and implementing and executing. So whatever I'm trying to say, try to execute it. It will definitely work. There are many psychological therapies available to how to, activate your unconscious mind, how to take from unconscious repository and bring it into the conscious one. That is a psychological process. And for this, we already have in our tradition that is called yoga, meditation. It helps us to activate the mind, which is actually went into your unconscious. So for that, you will have to do some practice, and there are, you will Google it, you will find many more ways, but best ways is doing yoga, meditation. It will help you, to utilize your mind maximum, and particularly it will also help you to channelize your energy. We all have mental energy, but it depends upon in which direction you want to take that mental energy, either in a positive direction or in a negative direction. Like many people, you can see they are very their memory is very sharp, their understanding is very sharp, they are very keen observer. How? Because somewhat their activation of brain is slightly more than the average people. So as a student, if you really want to improve, you will have to make some conscious effort to convert this some part of your unconscious mind into the conscious one. But please also make note, unconscious generally a repository of bad experiences, but actually you are talking about pre-conscious storage of your knowledge. So how to retrieve? For example, sir might have talked about active vocabulary and passive vocabulary. So when you understand, when you listen to someone or read a book, you find that you know its meaning. But when you speak or write, you are unable to use those words. Why? Because that is not pre-conscious. So it is completely up to you to how much you can take from the passive memory or bring back into the active memory. So it's a type of process. It's like you will have to make some conscious effort to do that. So how to activate maximum part of your brain, that is also a process. I hope I can answer.
Yeah.
However, I am not at all expert in psychology. Please note that.
No. This was great, and all the students of English are well aware of these theories. So you do not need to be an
Yes.
expert in psychology. Right. The next question is from Shivangi Shukla, and I hope that the way you have answered this question, that our unconscious memory is the repository of bad emotions or bad experiences, and how to channelize them and how to reconstruct our thought answers her as well, because that is
Yes.
her next question: how to convert destructive ideas into constructive ideas, right?
Yes.
So that is the thought by default and other things. So I think you have answered her as well. The last question, that not the last question, the second last question, it is by Aniket Sonkar. Can we control our unconscious mind if we try?
Uh, I don't think so. Because why we cannot control it? Because your unconscious is nothing but your past experiences. In order to change your unconscious mind, you will have to go into the past, and we cannot go into past until and unless we have time machine, and of course we don't have time machine. But one thing we can do, if you know that in the past we have some bad experiences, and so only intellectually you can try to handle those situations. Since you have like many you might, some of us might have failed some child sexual abuses, etc. So these things have very bad effect on in our mind. So you cannot go in the past and change the things. But once you know that this thing happens, then to some extent we can control it, and we can control all our behavior, but we cannot go in the past and change it. That becomes our psyche. Yes.
Right. The last question that we have got here is how to control negative thoughts in our mind, usually when we are alone. This is asked by Abhishek Kumar Maurya.
Okay, first of all, we cannot control our thought completely. Note it. It is not possible to control our thought. Many a times it happens, I'm not saying to all of you, but some of you might have noticed that you want to sleep, but your thought process is not stopping. However, you consciously want to stop the thought process and you want to sleep, but you are unable to stop it. And sometimes your thinking is going in that direction, but you don't want to go in that direction. But time and again, your thinking is going in that direction. So first, that I gave you answer that we cannot have control on our completely how we think, what you think. But to some extent, intellectually, we can try to channelize it. We can make some conscious effort to think less, do not think negative, think positive. These are the things you can convince yourself. That is the only way. But my answer would be no, there is no complete control of, we cannot control our thinking. Thinking will go in the direction it wants to go. But intellectually, you can to some extent control it, hold it, but it will go in that direction. That is what the psychology is saying, research saying, I'm not saying.
With this, I hand over the last of the proceedings to Dr. Kaumudi Singh to wind up. And
thank you so much, sir. I once again thank Dr. Saroj Kumar, sir, for answering all the questions so beautifully. The answers were both cognitive, and it gave a chance for us to think and rethink on those topics. So thank you so much, sir. And I wish that we hear from you again very soon.
You're always welcome, ma'am.
I request Chiranjeev to please carry on the meeting for 5 more minutes for the students to fill in the feedback form, and then you can exit the meeting. Sir, thank you so much for your presence. You can exit.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir.
Your convenience. Thank you, Dr. Sachi.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr.
I really enjoyed, particularly the question and answer session. I enjoyed.
I hope
and
so.
I am happy at the same time, a little bit jealous that you got a very talented students very curious
Yeah,
students.
Don't be jealous. We are teachers. We are in
Okay,
universal
thank you, sir.
teachers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
You know, I'm not jealous.